It's a guy, a car, and a podcast.
It's a guy, a car, and a podcast.
It's a guy, a car, and a podcast.
It's a guy, a car, and a podcast. Buckle up.
Are you gonna sit down?
What's he doing?
I don't know. I'm not quite
It's
sure.
not staying
Me neither.
He'll sit right here.
Where's Gage?
Kind of weird.
Gage!
Gage!
Right there.
What you doing?
Did you know that Gage wakes up like 12 times?
Brushing his teeth, getting ready for the podcast.
Did you know that Gage wakes up like 12 times a night to go
I
to
mean,
the
that's
bathroom?
probably safe, because if he didn't, they could probably smell his breath.
No, but Gage wakes up like 12 times a night to go to the bathroom, and it's not even, it's like, and then he goes back to
Why are
bed.
you giving away all his secrets?
Because this is on video. It'll be.
No.
No, you have to sit over here.
No,
I'm good.
they don't need to know.
Why?
Because I can see you.
They don't sit here. They don't need to know that we have that in our family. We can be a normal family
Why
for
don't you
once.
sit with me?
Stop it.
Yeah, don't already kill me.
You can knock from here.
Did you and your brother ever do the ridiculing thing to each other and beat the heck
Well,
out
I'm the younger, so
Yeah.
I absorbed ridicule.
absorbed
I don't think I was
all of
ever like quick enough or confident enough to ridicule him. I don't remember ever
How
trying to
much
take it.
younger are you then?
3 years?
3 years.
Yeah.
I'll beat the crap out of him if he's actually me.
It's constant.
Yeah, you will.
It's constant back and forth, and he catches the most of it.
I mean, I think you two, in a positive way, are to blame for this because
Yeah.
it seems like you create an environment for these kids that allows them to be relaxed enough to behave like this. I didn't grow up in an environment like that. It was very like Dad worked a lot and he had church callings and things. So when he came home, he was just the enforcer and just beating on people and trying to like,
Yeah.
you know, create justice. So we were around Mom and we're tyrants. And then when Dad came home, it was, just be quiet or get the worst of it.
the wrath.
So that kind of, that programs you to be quiet.
Yeah.
Weirdly, I've been thinking about this a lot for the last 5 or 6 years. Is like my behavior is heavily influenced by the fact that people were always trying to. I'm the middle child, and people were just always trying to fit me in places.
Yeah.
So I'm a big dude, I'm 6'2", 260 or something,
Yeah.
and I'm arguably comfortable in most physical situations, partly just because I was always squeezed in places, and then just children are meant to be seen and not heard. I think I was kind of raised with that mentality, so I just learned that unless, my jokes were killing or whatever, for the most part I was an annoyance. And so I kind of grew into that to the point as an adult. The podcast, anything that I do, music, anything that I do, when I put it out there, I'm on high alert for feedback because I'm waiting for somebody to tell me it's not good enough or it just shouldn't exist.
Right.
And I've gotten to the point now where I want them to say that only because it'll give me someone to say, fair enough, why?
Yeah.
So they can explain to me why it sucks, and then I can go get better at that thing. And so the problem is, I almost become this Nazi of perfectionist in the sense that it's tell me where I'm not good at something and watch me do better.
Yeah. Yeah.
With the last 3 girls that I seriously dated, the ones that I really wanted to be with, part of what was weird about the relationship is I'd spent so much time out of the church, so by the time I got with them, I think they were expecting some churchy things of me that I just wasn't used to, that wasn't part of me behaviorally or whatever the case may be. But I did get in this kind of growth mindset where I ended up saying the same thing to all 3 of them at various parts of our relationship. And it was one of the first, mantras in my life that I could say, and I just believed it into every tissue of my body. And it was this: stick around and watch me learn how to learn. In the sense that, I knew there was things that they expected that weren't maybe part of my routine or just weren't part of my understanding or whatever, but all needed to be done was shown. how to do it. Like,
Right.
two of them had kids, and so fatherhood? What? Like, the only father I know is that, and I watched myself become that a few times with one of their kids, and I just had to, like, sit myself down and be like, okay, well, now that you've seen that you're capable of that, and that that's your knee jerk, like, stop.
Yeah.
And how are you going to stop? And I was very proud of myself for how much I learned in that time, and yet so shattered to still be rejected or passed on, you know. So
yeah, and that's a tough like, if anything will try your patience, try your just everything. I don't, you know, if they will push. They learn your buttons, and they will push them constantly. Who? Huh? Who? Kids.
That
Yeah, no, I'm not gonna high five you on that.
no.
which is interesting
No,
because
yeah, I know why you want to high five. See, that's what I'm saying. Like she will do that. Like she'll gonna high five me, and I'll do it, and she'll pull her hand out of the way and make me miss, and it makes me furious. And they see that, and then they'll start doing it.
I have no drive to ever give anyone a high five in my daily life on any given day. Knowing that I can make him that mad that easily.
High five.
It's not the
high five
same.
him all the time.
I want, like, it's so interesting that you would say that, because I feel like the one thing that I've heard pretty unanimously from parents is that with a child, one of the hard things about the child is, because of mimicry, you will see the child become you in ways that you'll learn the things that you hate about yourself, because you'll see them. But when you talk about how your children, they love you and they pay attention to you so much so that they know the things that you hate, and they'll do them just playfully, like, that's a whole nother level of driving you crazy.
Like when I'm at work, like guys at work, like that's all I do is harass the guys that I work with, and then like they'll see like me interact with them, and they're like, oh, they love it. It's like because they'll do the same thing that I do to these guys at work. These guys do to me, and she does to me, and
the guys at work.
And the guys at work are like, oh my, it's the best ever to see you get treated like you treat us every day. It's the best thing ever. And I'm like, yeah, it's I know that I do it to you, and
The bully's bully.
Yeah, I get bullied by my children because I bully guys at work. Bully in a fun way, but fun for
is
me.
it fun? Is it
It's
fun? Because
for
when they
me.
do it, it's suddenly not
Right?
so
Yeah,
fun.
it drives me insane. But yeah, that's
So, question, and I can't be it's impossible that I'm the first person to ask you this question, but maybe it'll be interesting to get it on the record. I get the feeling like your relationship, the pairing of you two
her and I.
as a romantic couple, has been a question mark to people. Is that inaccurate? Have people been like, how did you two end up
Oh
together?
yeah,
Like,
absolutely,
so
constantly. Yeah,
what
they
is the
can't
story? I don't
understand
think I know
why
the
see
story of how you
Yeah.
two like came together.
Well,
really?
they constantly.
Kogos.
He said that she was pretty like his goat.
That's true. That's exactly the line.
But it was like this. You're pretty like my goat. Wait, how did you?
So she's pretty like my goat, Mom.
Wow.
But yeah, they constantly ask what I see in her.
What? I think it's the other
Yeah, I thought it was the
No.
opposite.
That's my
Yeah,
thought.
it's like I said earlier. I'm at work. I'm the homeless guy. Somebody, it was funny because somebody was just saying the other day, like, I had to move to Virginia. I lived in Virginia for 6 months, like 3 years ago, for work. Like I had to move down there, and that was it. Like they stayed here, and she came down one weekend, and like everybody that I was in school with and everything, we're out at the bar, where we were planning to go to the bar, and like we walked in together, and everybody was like, "Who? Is that his wife?" And I'm like, yeah. The couple guys that I worked with that were there with me, they're like, yeah, and they're like, how did that happen? what in the world?
What? How much money was it?
So yeah, it's constant. Even
because he said I was pretty like
His goat.
yeah.
I mean,
Didn't he like ridicule?
that sounds like the funny story, but is that
No, he really said that to me.
the moment
No,
where
it's
you
the
were
fact.
like,
No. It's the fact that he was so funny. Like nothing gets me.
He was also very, 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 very persistent. I hear.
He was very persistent.
Like she toned him
Nothing
down
gets
like
me.
20 times before.
No. Nothing gets me like wit, and he is so freaking funny.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but you turned him down like 10 times before you actually accepted a date.
And he was so I was dating someone when I first met him, and I'd been with this guy for years. And
His Rodette.
Yeah.
Or so we
And-
say.
Wow! It was just a not really healthy relationship. Like he wasn't
Oh.
terrible to me, but he was a stupid teenager, and he was a man who was nice and like you know
Thought you were pretty.
treated
Let's
me
go.
like a nice human being.
Let's
So-
go.
Except for when I snapped you in the ankle.
Yeah. Then he would do dumb stuff that was like a dumb teenager, like snapping me in the ankle with a rat tail rag at work. And like almost crippled
But
me.
yeah, didn't you like sit up on the counter for like an hour?
It's like when you pinch the girl that you like, you know.
Kick her in the shin.
It's the same
I'm
thing.
telling you that somebody kicked you in the shin to show you the crush.
I like you. Shoot her with the sandbag then.
I'm still a guy though, so I do stupid shit.
No, so the story is we were working. I was going to school at the Art Institute. So
Yeah.
I moved out here to go to the Art Institute, and I had broken up with my boyfriend. Well, I was still dating him when he and I first met, but then we broke up at some point during his working at BP. So he got a job down at the BP gas station. This is at Banksville and Potomac, in Banksville, kind of.
That's so cool how it's BP
Wow,
and
okay.
Banksville and the Derricks.
Yeah, so you like go through Beechview, and then as you head down that really steep hill
Yeah,
to
yeah, yeah.
Vermont.
Uh-huh.
So Chris grew up on Potomac.
Okay.
And then the BP's right at the bottom of the hill.
Got
So I was working there, going through school, and he was going through a divorce and had moved back in with his parents so they could help keep an eye on Kayla while he went to school.
Okay.
And so the guy next door that he grew up next to was my manager, Sam, at the gas station. And so he said to Sam, "Can you give me a couple hours just for, some cash?"
Yeah.
And he did. And Sam said to me one day, "Hey, Rita, you got to train the new guy tonight in Blimpies," which was the sub shop in there, like the Subway.
Yeah.
And I said, "Is he hot?" And he's like, "Oh my God, will you quit?"
That was hot.
He walked in. He walked in that night, and he
She
had
said, "Oh."
he had a mullet. He looked just like Billy Ray Cyrus.
And my mom said, "He's old enough to be my dad."
Say that. I was 19 and he was 26.
Wow.
But he was so fun and so charming and so sweet.
And
He wore
so
me down.
old.
He wore me down.
That's weird.
It's not weird now, but
Weird wording.
what?
What? You're pretty like my
You wouldn't
dude?
let me say no.
No, wait.
I
No,
wouldn't
he
take
just.
no for an
I locked her
answer.
in the freezer and told her you out.
I mean, I think you only asked me out one time and I said no. Like,
Hit them.
I love the mania of it all. It's
Oh,
sick.
it's constant. The dogs do this every time you let them out and let them back in. They're so excited to be alive.
Get out of here.
We could learn something from
Yeah,
that.
right. I wish I got that excited every time I went to the bathroom.
I did something.
Like,
Hey,
Uno, hey.
Lay down.
So, anyways, yeah, I think he only asked me out one time and I declined because I said he wasn't old enough to be my dad. I found really awful ways to communicate.
Maybe.
And then,
Oh, yeah.
So then the next day he came in and he was all sulky and feeling.
Well, no, but that was
Yeah.
that was after.
She was guilty.
Dad
That was
did.
the
Dad was the guilt trip.
Put them in their hand.
Dad played the guilt trip.
No,
Yeah.
so it was New Year's Eve, 1999, and into 2000, and he called me. He came down to the gas station to visit me before midnight, and then
Very intoxicated.
very intoxicated because he had already taken a different girl out that night. So on his way home, he
So you
stops.
want to be a player, but you
He
will say.
stops to say hi to me and wants me to go out with him, and I said no. And then the next day, first day of 2000, he
Are
comes
they
in,
supposed to be in their cage?
he comes into the gas station, and he was all sulky and wouldn't look at me or talk to me, and I said, "Fine, if you can get me into the Vasta tonight, I'll go out with you."
What's the
Because I was underage and the Vasta was a bar. And he said, okay.
How'd you get in?
I knew the bouncer.
So we danced at the master.
Dad?
Wow.
But no, so I heard the story that you done. Wasn't it Grandpa Derrick? Whenever you came to him that day, you were like, I think I'm in love, and he said, "Oh God, not with the girl with green hair."
Blue hair.
Blue hair.
Blue hair and black fingernails, I think is what he said.
Not in the middle of her face.
No, I don't think he
Oh,
said
really?
anything
Yeah,
about
I
that.
think so. Yeah, I was in art school. I had all different colored hair and piercings and stuff. But his dad, I knew his dad. Well, I don't remember him. I had interaction with his dad and a couple of his brothers before I ever met him because they lived right up the street and would come down to get their cigarettes before their work day. So his dad knew me as the girl with the blue hair and black fingernails. And he ended up loving me.
Tolerating.
No, he loved me.
No, he liked her.
She probably
I love
liked
her.
her more than you did.
So I mean, just after the night of dancing, like
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
that's
just,
pretty much it.
never.
we both feel like we just knew each other forever. Like there was no
Wow.
getting to know you.
It
Phase.
was obviously
I think it was-
pills Dad slipped in your.
I think it was like we had worked together for several months,
Mm-hmm.
so it was
Yeah.
like, and
we weren't
had-
strangers.
Yeah, we weren't strangers to one another, and we like
You spend a lot of time chit chatting when you work
Yeah.
like the later evening
Yeah.
shifts at a gas
Yeah.
station when no one's coming in and there were no cell phones. We weren't like looking at a phone. We had to talk to each other.
Take them upstairs.
Crazy.
Right
So,
now, make sure they get in.
So yeah, we got to know each other for
so it was
Quite a lot.
yeah, it wasn't.
Go upstairs.
And then, yeah, so I mean, it was once it was, you know, we weren't dating right off the bat either. We were,
I wouldn't agree to that because I had
Yeah.
just come out of a relationship.
you know, I was still married,
Yeah.
but going through a divorce.
In.
So it was like we
dated.
dated,
God.
and but then it was like
Rigby.
because there was already that familiar
Familiar.
because we knew each other already. I hate saying that word. Because we had already were familiar with one another and hung out and talked, and there wasn't that getting to know you dating awkwardness,
Yeah.
you know. And then it just kind of fell into place. It was just there was no trying to impress her. There's she wasn't trying to impress me. Not that she needed to, but it was just comfortable.
It was just easy.
Yeah. And then it became harder. It's easy.
Can't stop.
It's easy, like when you're dating and that's the easy and don't have kids and now's the hard time. Like it's tough now to maintain a connection with somebody.
Tough how?
You just
You
get
grow-
lost in the drudgery of daily life and responsibilities and just time just sails past you and you realize like I haven't even really had a conversation with this person for a long time.
And I mean,
Maybe we should talk.
even beyond that, when you make time for the conversations, are there ever moments of like disappointment where that person ceases to live up to previous expectations, and you're just like,
Yeah,
wait,
I mean,
did you
it's-
stop being funny or being interesting? When did that happen?
I don't know.
I think it's more you just get to know each other so well that you take each other for granted and get really irritated with their little isms that every human has. So they just become super, super human to you. And when you start to take someone for granted.
And when you it takes a lot to deal with
It takes a lot out of you.
to deal with these guys.
Because
How
you
long
have-
into your relationship did this even start? Like, did kids start coming along?
So he was born in 2001 and we started dating in 90. No.
Oh, yeah, that is
2000. Like
pretty
a year.
quick.
A year.
Yeah.
A year.
Yeah. So
Wow.
quickly, very quickly. But it's just
Well,
you each have your own ideas of how kids should be raised,
Yeah.
and that breaks down. It's not just a theory. It's not like this overarching theory or idea that you have. That means like minute to minute how things are said, way kids are looked at.
Yeah.
The delivery of every moment.
Mm-hmm.
So that you start to just get irritated with each other over that kind of stuff, and just life.
It is, and yet I'm fascinated by you two as a couple because it seems like each of you have maintained your individuality, but created a space that allows the other person to also be their own individual. It's almost like maybe I just came from a space of like control and a space of kind of dominance and things like that, and it just seems there's a comfort between the two of you that's kind of like that I'm unfamiliar with. I don't know that I've seen it too much.
I think we're well, for me, and this is what's really important to me and what I'm really proud of and it gives me great joy is we're friends, I think, more than anything.
Yeah, I would agree
best
with that.
friends.
Is like the transition from friendship to romantic and back a thing, or is that a part of the friendship? Like, how does that?
For me, it's something that I kind of have to hold separately.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because
so,
he
like,
becomes too much of a BFF.
If you want to have like a romantic night out, like the way he dresses can influence that. The way he treats you, like you kind of go into romantic mode and then you can relax.
Yeah, because
back
he becomes to me like he's so in touch. And so I don't know if you remember Diane and Carl Bushman from the ward. But he was the bishop, but not while you were there. Okay. But anyways, he was the doctor in the ward. So Diane once said to Chris, she loves him because he's so in touch with his feminine side.
Which I disagree.
He really is. He is the emotional one in our relationship. I tend to be more like...
You're an art student!
I know, but I am definitely... but
she
you
doesn't
see,
cry.
I didn't...
I've seen her cry maybe once.
She's cried when Dad gave her the ring.
Cries like a baby.
The ring on her finger right now.
I was an art student. I'm not an artist now. I'm a salesperson and I work in healthcare. So I am...
Where's your rings?
In the dish where I put them to do the dishes.
Dad bought her a ring that she had been wanting for a very long time.
That wasn't a very long time. No, so Chris is super romantic. So he's done stuff like this several times. That one that they're talking about is I used to work as a caregiver.
He Googles it.
No. I used to work as a caregiver. I was a facility, a senior living facility, and I would have to take people to like doctor's appointments and stuff. So I took this lady to her doctor's appointment out in the South Hills, and there was this jeweler there that she wanted to get her watch fixed at, blah, blah, blah. While I was there with her, she's at the counter doing her thing, and I was just perusing the stuff. And then there was this beautiful, thank you, little mini gallery, this is the ring, of this particular artist's exhibit of jewelry.
Is that Moonstones?
No. Organowitz on South Hills. And I just really like that artist. Like his stuff was very cool, very organic, just really pretty stuff. So I'm not a big jewelry person. I can see it, appreciate it, and never think of it again. Mm-hmm. But he listened to me that evening when I came home, tell him about, this is really cool jewelry. It was just the prettiest stuff, and it looked like the sea. And he and this was maybe like a month or two before Christmas.
I think you had taken a picture of it.
Did I?
Yeah, I think you maybe took pictures of it.
A month or two before
and
Christmas.
Sent them, texted them to me.
And he went and found the jeweler and took the picture, the description or whatever.
Yeah.
And bought the ring for me. And then last year, not this past Christmas, but the one before, he went to another jewelry store downtown and said she's got this ring. It's got a Tahitian pearl in it. She really loves it. I'd like to get her a necklace to go with it. So he had this guy custom make this to go with it. And I just can't pull off that level of romance. I buy him Uggs.
Yeah, she brought him a sick pair of Uggs.
Well, that being the case then, Chris, what, with you being so romantic,
what do you
and
see
she not necessarily reciprocating to the same level, what?
I'm definitely the dude in the relationship.
So what do you say? What's my draw?
What do you see in me?
Yeah. Well, I hate to say it that way, but yes.
Well,
I mean, because that's a high level of romance. How do you reciprocate love with someone? How do you find love with someone that doesn't reciprocate with that same kind of
because it doesn't have
language?
to be. I don't think it has to be the same kind of language. I think that's kind of what. I think that's kind of what works though in it, because she is she's Valentine's Day several years ago, she had made a book of just pictures of different times in our lives and bent metal and made designs, and so it's stuff like that. And I don't know. I just think that I don't know that it has to be reciprocated on the same level. I don't know that I don't look for it to be reciprocated on the same level. It doesn't. It's in different ways. So it may not be going out and buying me jewelry or going out and buying this, that, or the other. It's in different ways. She comes home and makes dinner every night. I mean, to me, that's like, well, holy shit. I don't have to
Profanity.
worry about.
I don't mind.
I don't have to worry
Leave
about,
it later.
dinner because she has that covered. To me, that's like,
Well, then
I
where's my
appreciate
love?
that.
Because I've been cooking lately.
Where's
that's.
his ring?
Yeah, where's my ring? I've been making dinner.
Where's my ring? I do the dishes.
So it's.
Well, now I'm like mentally acknowledging my own high maintenance-ness as far as what I
Come on, man.
hope for from a female companion. I want her to be certain things, do certain things, say certain things. And I guess my brother was talking to me not too long ago. The most recent girl that I was dating, he was just kind of talking to me about. I was talking to him about the fact that I wasn't in love with this girl, and he basically started talking to me like a 14-year-old. Like, I didn't enjoy the conversation with him because he was talking about love as if I'd never had it.
Right.
And he was talking about, but over time, the attractions and the little, Twitter patience and things, those fade, and other things become more important, friendships and stuff like that. And I was listening to him talk, and I was like, dude, one of the things that irritates me about the point that you're trying to make right now is you and your wife, you had a period. You had a honeymoon stage of your relationship. And that was important to the beginnings of your relationship. And what you're insinuating and what you're saying to me right now is, because I'm a little older and because things have sort of changed in the vein of maybe what kind of woman I'm going to be finding or what her circumstances are going to be or whatever, what my circumstances are, that maybe I'm void a honeymoon period, and I'm basically just going to find like a friend and like settle down comfortably. I'm like, I don't function like that.
Yeah.
I'm going to need there to be a period where we're just like super into each other. And
just your age alone was what was going. He didn't think.
I feel like he was insinuating, and I kind of hope he listens to this and he tells me, that's not what I meant to say. Maybe we can have a different conversation, but...
You know what, though?
I worked with seniors a long time, and people fall madly and passionately and explosively in love at any age. So,
and honestly, I mean, I don't know. Like, I don't think we had like the whole whirlwind.
We've said that before.
Yeah, like it wasn't.
There were no fireworks.
Yeah,
Did you guys
it was
even
just.
have a honeymoon?
There was a. There. It
No?
was just a. Honestly, it was just a comfortableness. Like there was no. That's what we always say now, like the whole dating scene, like to go out and try to date somebody and like, I don't know, to have those fireworks and everything, it's just, and that's what we not argue with Kayla about, but, she'll post stuff on Facebook, like all I want is somebody to, wine me and dine me and make my heart flutter and fireworks go off. And, and everything we kiss, it's all sparkles and unicorns farting rainbows out of their butts. And it's just like it's not realistic. Like at least for like in my mind, it's not realistic because it's I don't know like. Do you need? And I think you said it to her. You need somebody to make you feel. I forget exactly what you said. Like, you need somebody to make you feel that way. Like, why do you depend on somebody else to make you feel like you're, have to have excitement? Don't depend on somebody else to make your life exciting. Make your own life exciting. Don't depend on somebody else. It's great if somebody makes you feel that way, but don't look for somebody to make you feel that way. Make yourself feel that way. And if somebody else is there for the ride, cool.
Yeah,
but you can't depend on somebody else to make you feel.
Well, to have that expectation, whenever you have an
Spectacular.
expectation of someone, you're just setting yourself and that person up for heartache, in my opinion, just because we're all human and we can never meet someone else's expectations all the time.
Yeah.
We might some of the time, which is great, but then the time you don't, then immediately if you're depending on the fireworks and stuff, you're like, oh my god, wait a minute, maybe that wasn't the right one because now I don't feel it.
Yeah.
They're a human being, they're not always going to make you that excited.
Well, see, now this worries me because,
Right now before I take it.
like, my perspective of how I have courted women in the past is I think I have a gift. I think I have an instinct to understand people, and I think that ends up getting used to know what she wants and then to work to become that so as to please and impress her. And I guess with my marriage anyway, the thing that I noticed is that I wasn't interested in maintaining that post-marriage. I am me, and there are definitely things that make me me and that make me happy and what have you, and didn't necessarily make her terribly happy. But at this phase, having been kind of burned enough times that now I just don't care, now I'm kind of whatever, now I'm sort of worried about being so in a place where I'm just doing my own thing that I can't even picture a woman coming into the picture that wouldn't really just be more of kind of an appendage to my life. And that to me doesn't feel like a relationship. That doesn't feel like marriage. That feels like she would kind of come second to all this other stuff in my brain. So I'm trying to put the two worlds together. Like how do I value somebody so much that they're top priority? But to your point, how am I still like me? And how do I still do the things?
Do they have to be top priority though?
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, we go to marriage therapy, by the way.
Yeah.
Because everybody
That
can have a better marriage.
Explains a lot.
No, I mean, because it's,
I use him as therapist for my anxiety and depression. I love him. And then we used from him for Seth, just to try to help Seth, understand himself better and make good choices. No.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, but like,
that was
it's not like clinical. Like, he was a teenager and just making stupid choices, so let's, work on bettering ourselves. And that worked really well. And then so I said to Chris, well, why don't we just make our marriage even stronger? So we go to Dr. Duffy for that too.
I think that's great.
And I don't, like, I think,
it's awesome.
I think learning different things and
the therapist becomes your blind spot in a way.
Well,
it's like the thing you just can't see by
Well, right,
perspective
and
or whatever. They point out, and you're like, oh, and then you can kind of work it out.
For a long time, like, I thought, okay, she needs to be top priority to me, and I need to be top priority to her.
Yeah.
But, like, learning that's not always the case. There's other things. She needs to be top priority to herself, and I need to be top priority to myself, So it's not always about making sure that she's making me happy, because is she happy with herself, or am I happy with myself? So it's I don't know, like, it's a constant.
It's a careful juggling.
Fluid.
Of space.
It's a fluid.
Yes.
It's not just. I have
It's
no
evolving
idea.
constantly.
Yeah, it's
so
constantly evolving.
As her needs are evolving, you're kind of happy to get to know her
Right.
every 5 years or whatever. Like
it's
cellularly, we're
it
a completely different person every
Yes.
7 years.
Right.
Like we regenerate and we're not
right,
new.
and
It is an evolution, but it is also, I think, still it's more fluid than evolution, because we're probably, it's probably both. So you're evolving, on a larger scale, but at the same time, you'll find yourself wanting certain things very much at sometimes, and then suddenly they're not important. But then, like, another year later, oh my God, that thing's really important to me again. And you're like, I don't know what really wasn't. So you have to be able, as couples, to flex like that with each other, because it's a lot.
What am I doing? What are you doing?
Braiding your hair.
He's asking me what I'm doing.
Mom, turning your head all of a sudden.
So,
Put it in this case.
what year did the church poke its little head into your lives?
So we started dating in 2000.
Yeah.
Had Seth in 2001. Somewhere, July of 2001. Somewhere before that. So I'm going to guess sometime in late 2000, early 2001. 2 Mormon families moved in next door to us up on Pioneer Avenue in Brookline. And so Kayla was the same age as Mackenzie Hall, one of the family's kids. And they started taking her to church. And we're like, yeah, okay, whatever. 3 hours of church. Crazy people. But then, you start to get to know each other.
Oh, he said they changed it to 2 hours now.
Oh, I think I heard something about that. I wasn't sure if it was true. But backyard barbecues, whatever. You're just like, man, those are really cool families. And you get to know each other. And then you're like, okay, fine. Maybe we'll try the first hour. And then at the same time, we were planning our wedding. So we had him in July 2001. We got married in June of 2002. Oh yeah. So we wait a minute. Yeah, we actually just met them just before he was born because I vividly remember Elisa bringing the handmade baby blanket, but I didn't really know her. She just introduced herself. So then in that next year before our wedding, we really got to know them well. We'd started going to church. The missionaries came. No, they didn't come yet.
Jeez.
We didn't start going to church yet.
No.
We
Yeah.
did?
We didn't start going to church.
What? Don't make
until after we got
faces
married.
about me behind my back.
We didn't start going to church until
After we were
wedding.
married, because Dawn, one of the wives,
I'm kidding.
was in my wedding part, was one of my bridesmaids, and the missionary, they had gone to the DC temple, and Mackenzie, the little girl that was Kayla's age,
Yeah.
submitted our names at the temple to be visited, so the missionaries started calling them, and they're like, just hold off, they're planning their wedding, just let them get through this.
Yeah.
And so they did. So October of 2002 is when we got baptized, right? Because we started doing the discussions right after our wedding. So October of 2002 is when we got baptized.
Wow.
It's kind of a whirlwind.
Yeah, that's a lot
Really?
going on in a short period of time.
I can't even remember what I had for dinner last night.
No, you can't because you made it.
I can't remember that.
Pupusas.
Oh, those were good.
So,
But I also.
I mean, what was the early experience like, and I guess leading into when things started to sour? Like, what was the time frame in all of that?
I think it was just years and years, little bits.
Oh, okay. So you guys were pretty steady activity-wise for years.
Oh,
for
yeah.
a long time.
No, we were completely 100% active for a good solid 8 years.
We were good.
Wow. Oh, so you were sealed like the whole nine?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
We weren't
yeah.
even drinking coffee.
We got sealed. Kayla and Seth got sealed to us.
Uh-huh.
Keegan, I was pregnant with when we got sealed, so he was born into the covenant, and then he was born later.
What does sealed mean?
In the temple, when you said, "You give me white shirt," they almost sealed Kayla and Seth to the wrong couple. They took them to the wrong couple. And they're like, "Oh dear, that's not our children."
I kind of remember that.
Yeah, you were like,
Wow.
I
But
kind
it
of
was,
remember
I don't know that it ever went. I don't know that it ever went sour.
Yeah, there's
It didn't go sour.
no feelings of.
Yeah, like it just.
How many fizzles?
It just. Yeah.
even after we
Yeah,
started
just
stopped
quietly
going to church.
Yeah.
we
It's
still
just.
stopped-
Were there things that ceased to serve you on like a spiritual or an intellectual level? Or I know you mentioned about some social stuff, but happened like after the fact.
Yeah,
Like,
well, yeah. It was all the rules. I just didn't feel like I needed all those rules. Like,
Yeah.
don't drink tea, don't drink coffee. I mean, you just see, like, so many Mormons, like, addicted to
Still whatever
sugar.
they want. Oh yeah.
And that's
yeah.
just as bad. Like, and I'm kind of like a science person. So, like,
Yeah.
caffeine's not real good for you, but neither is sugar.
Yeah.
And so I saw people, eating sugar like they,
And I'm guessing, knowing you personality-wise, that came up a lot. Was there debating? Did you never like?
No, we had conversations with people, but no, I don't like hypocrisy. So anytime I see hypocrisy, and not that I shouldn't call that hypocrisy, but irony. It was a bit of irony, and I was like, okay, I'm not following all these stupid rules. If you can kind of like.
I feel like there gets to be this weird line where it's like, we have a prophet, so there's a mouthpiece of God on the earth, and do everything that he says by the letter, and if you can't understand the letter, then, we're gonna break it down painstakingly and horribly until the letter has some definition, and then live by that letter.
Yeah.
Versus, like your point, the word of wisdom was revealed 200 years ago before a lot of science would have been able to maybe indicate different types of things, and now we have science, which can assist us in, I mean, in short, take care of your body. Like,
take care of your body and don't have vices. Like, anytime you feel yourself getting addicted to something, that, to me, is kind of a common sense thing. Like, I probably shouldn't, find myself depending on any product or chemical.
And, understand the difference between an addiction and, I feel like food or drink for me can sometimes be like a release. Like I just, when I'm, like this trip, for example, like there's just been times just driving around and maybe I'll just have like a bag of candy or something there just to kind of, there's just something about the pleasure spike that can release stress, that can bring the volume of what's happening down. and
Mm-hmm.
that's
100%.
good in moderation.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like, don't have 15 sodas a day. Like, have
Right.
14 waters and a soda. Like,
Yeah.
fine, have the
Well,
soda in there,
but
but
then you see like somebody sitting with a 2-liter of pop, and like it's a 12-ounce bottle of pop.
Yeah.
But it's a 2-liter.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I have a question.
What?
Your grandma's gay.
Mhm.
How
She is.
how were you able to
Accept her.
go so willingly, like, along with the church's rules against being gay if you're
Well, that's
grandma's gay?
I don't think it was go so willingly. That was always so. I think for me, anyways, it was like I don't care that they're gay, but all right, I'll go along. It was kind of
Sorry.
okay.
Oh no, I was trying to do
I feel
something.
like you kind of put your own intellect at the mercy
Okay,
of
done.
someone
We're done.
else's
Wait,
rules,
I'm doing
which
something.
is what I did with
Give
my
me your
mom, and
hand.
I'm not happy that I did that.
Wait, I'm
It
doing
was,
something.
okay, well, the prophet says that, you're not supposed to act on it. So for my kids' sakes, I did one time, like my mom and Pam came to visit, and I asked them to sleep in separate rooms, and I will never forgive myself for that.
What?
Wow.
When was that?
Because I didn't want the kids to see,
So it's kind of like.
And
so
did they?
you
I don't
pretty
remember.
much-
I don't remember that. Did they?
Wow, you really pulled a Chinese Revolution of 1962, I'd say, when the Chinese.
That's a high school reference
When
right
the-
there.
when the-
You're not going to remember that in 20 years. You're not ever going to be able to make that
When
reference.
the Red Army
Holy
led
cow.
by Mao Zedong.
Mao Zedong.
Mao
Jiminy
Zedong
Christmas.
drug their parents out in the streets and beat them for owning businesses,
Mhm,
or beat
yeah.
them for not having
Yeah.
the same beliefs.
Yeah, the people.
Totally the same thing. Yeah.
You're terrible.
I did.
You're terrible.
But that's-
I totally agree.
No, you're not.
Wait, how old were you?
Did that event, was that like an event horizon for you? Did that kind
That
of,
would be traumatic
it
to
probably
me.
was
that
a
was a
step.
line in the sand where
a
you're
step
like,
to that, yeah.
can't.
Well, I did it, but then, some time passed. Like, I did it, I was uncomfortable with it, but,
How do you word that to your own
make
mom?
your own.
Yeah.
And that was a serious question.
I asked her to just.
Like,
I don't
how do you
remember. I
word
don't know.
that?
I don't
like, I feel
remember.
like that'd
How
be
old were
really
we?
weird.
I don't know. I'm not calling her.
Obviously,
He
you
said,
said
how old were you?
Oh, you said
Obviously,
call
she had
her
the house.
to
So
ask
she was
her.
a grown woman. At that point, it doesn't really
I
matter.
understand that, but how old were we?
Oh, like toddlers.
You might. Yeah. I mean, you might not even been. No, you.
Yeah, we were in the new house. So. Yeah, I mean, it wasn't like that wasn't a line in the sand necessarily so much as a step.
It was an eye opener. Like,
Yeah.
It was starting.
It just felt wrong. My intellect told me it was wrong, but yet someone else who's supposed to be the mouth of God said this is kind of what you should do. So I was like, okay, and then I was like, no, that's stupid. I'm not doing that one anymore.
I feel like that would really hurt her.
I was in a band with a girl. I was in this like 3-piece kind of a chick rock band. Like there was a girl singer, bass player, girl drummer, and then me on guitar and singing backup vocals and stuff. And they were both lesbians, and then there was me, who was a lesbian in his own way. In that I
Like
love
girls.
women. So it was awesome. We had a great time. And I was like, the singer's cousin was the wife of a guy from another band I was in, so it was just a very tight knit thing. And then I started coming back to church, and I ended up like breaking up or leaving all those bands. And at one point, she and I just as friends like went out, just met up and went out and got some drinks and talked. And I still remember like she grew up in the church, and once she figured herself out that she was a lesbian, like she hid it for a long time, and then eventually came out, and a lot of hard things went along with that. But then she ended up like she had a girlfriend. They moved to Oregon, and she was very happy for a while. And then that fell apart. And she came home. Point being, like she's really been through the ringer of both just society trying to deal with that, and religious society and her family just really making things hard for her. And so I'm sitting there and I'm talking to her, and I don't know if she brought it up, or I don't know if it was in my heart to bring up something, but we got on the subject of God, and I'm sitting there talking to her, and I feel moved to express something to her, and I go about basically telling her that, if she if she lives her life this way, that there's going to come a day that she's going to be, face to face with God, and there'll be all the love in the world surrounding her because that's all that emanates from God, and they'll have a conversation about her life, and there will be a moment where he will say, because of this thing that you choose, I want you to be happy, and that's what you want, and that's so you. I give you, permission, or I give you the space to do that, but it can't be here because that's not how this functions, and so, this is it. And it was that was a very strange recap of the conversation, because even today, I still remember feeling. I won't be arrogant enough to say the spirit, but a spirit. There was something present. There was some compelling force that existed in that conversation. And she was very teary while I was saying these things, and we ended up saying goodbye after that. And then come to find out, she called her sister, and she was, pretty devastated by the whole conversation, and it sucked. And then, I don't know, maybe a month later, a few weeks later, or something like that, I was rereading or re-listening to this Brad Wilcox message called "His Grace is Sufficient," where it just breaks down what grace is and why we, as Christians, Mormons being Christians, ought to rely more on the grace of Christ, meaning this thing that we didn't and can't earn, that is just the force of salvation, and stop trying to earn heaven and start trying to learn heaven. And I was reading this thing, and I was floored by how wrong I was with what I said to this girl. And so I ended up messaging her, and I sent her the talk, and she was very kind about it and sent me a message back and said, I listened to the talk and cried, and it was great, and I appreciate what you said, and no hard feelings. But to this day, we still, talk every 6 months, every once in a while, but I'm still convinced that she's not interested in being close to me because of that conversation, and it's really influenced the way that I feel about that subject. That I guess this is my weird, long-winded way of saying, that moment definitely taught you something about what you really believe.
Yeah.
And there's value to that, except the fact that it comes at the cost of other people's feelings. And I haven't figured out how to make my peace with that. That we can, sometimes our learning as human beings comes at the cost of somebody else's feelings or whatever. And I think that's intended in God's plan, if you want to call it that way, but that just seems so unfair. And then fair, I'm like, fair's not real. What is fair? Fair doesn't exist. This is me getting into the philosophical end of how there's just too many holes in it, and I'm looking for things to fill the holes. I would like it to be a complete puzzle that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes it easy though.
Yeah,
that makes it. If it were, I don't know.
Fair is not fun, Dad likes to say.
Fair is not fun. I just think that, who am I to decide on somebody else's happiness, or even to begin to think that, what you're doing.
Yeah, that there are rules at all.
Yeah, what you're doing is
You're not
wrong.
hurting someone else.
Why is it? Yeah, I don't care. I don't care what you do. I don't care. So long as you're not affecting me, I don't care. So long as you're not affecting my family or hurting my family, I don't care. What you're doing in your house, I don't care. If you're out on the street and you're, having sex with another guy, then I'm going to be like, okay, another woman, I'm going to be like, whoa, that's a little bit inappropriate. But even if it were a man and a woman out on the street having sex with one another, I'm going to be like, whoa, that's probably not the time or place to be doing it.
Right.
I think what you're trying to break this point down to is that nothing being gay isn't really gonna do anything to you.
Well, right, but
personally
then
at all.
so to me, it's
just with that one topic, like you said,
right.
the whole broad topic. As long as you're not doing anything that directly affects
Right.
me,
So it's-
but I think it boils down to the fact that whether you're gay or not makes no difference to me.
Well, it makes no
Anybody else
difference
at
to me,
all.
and I don't know why it does to anybody else. I mean, I work with a guy who's transitioning to a woman,
Wow.
and he came out on Facebook, like that's how he came out. That hey, this is what I'm doing, this is who I am, and when he did, like other guys that I work with are like, man, I don't want that guy around me. I don't want anything to do. And I'm like, because he's out of the closet gay, or
That's
out
how
of
I
the
felt
closet,
You-
like all of a sudden you're attractive.
Yeah,
Like,
that's
All
what.
of a sudden this guy's gonna walk in and be like, hey, I just came out yesterday, and man, I'd love to get you in the sack. All of a sudden, you are like the hottest thing in this room. And they're like, well, that's not what I meant. Well, then what do you mean? I don't know.
Yeah, that's what
why
I
does
said.
it matter to you
Yeah.
what this guy's sexual preference is? If he comes on to you, be like, yeah, I'm not interested. And it's not like he's going to grab you and rape you.
You know what's been weirding me
Yeah.
out about that part? I've been listening to some of the podcasts I listen to have been talking about politics, not because that's the theme of the podcast, but just because we're in a weird space
Yeah.
and it's just a big guy. And they've been talking about how one of the things that's getting bananas is with the whole LGBTQ RSTUV, like it's just getting crazy.
The alphabet?
That parties within that structure are so intent on being recognized for whatever their sexual preference is that when a person is transitioned, a male to a female, and so that was man, now is a woman, and identifies as a woman and stuff, when she is not deemed as a sexual possibility by a heterosexual man, she is now upset and is willing to make a big deal about the fact that you're not recognizing me as a woman, when it's like, I'm not even saying anything bad about the fact that you transitioned. I'm just saying that you're not attractive to me.
Well, that's what I told this guy. I'm like, dude, I like you. Yeah, but you're ugly.
Well, it's really hard to navigate
Just
too.
don't find you attractive. And he's okay with that. Like, I have a relationship. I have a relationship where I can come out and tell him. I'm like, I talk to him about everything.
Yeah.
But I like I've said to him, it's going to be tough for me when you're finished.
Yeah.
Whatever that is, for me to look at you and go, oh, that's Charlotte. You're always going to be Jim, and you're the dude, and you're.
Yeah.
To me, it's going to be weird, but hey, I respect whatever whatever you want to do. Go ahead and do it.
Yeah.
If it's what you need to do to make yourself happy, and like he's told me,
complete or whole or whatever.
whole, happy, and he's told me when he was a little kid, he said I looked. Like my dad and other guys were looking at like Playboy magazines.
Yeah.
And I took the Playboy magazines and looked at them because I thought that would make me feel right.
Yeah.
As a guy. Mm-hmm. And it didn't. It just made me go, well, that's what I feel like I'm supposed to look like. And it was, and he struggled with that his entire life, and now he struggles with, the whole coming out and facing society.
Yeah.
So he kept himself bottled up and never felt right.
Yeah.
And now he's coming out and still doesn't feel right because now he has to face the criticism of society and suffers with that and struggles with that. While, all along he was struggling with everything else.
And even beyond that, what's kind of like wigging me out and maybe even irking me to a tiny bit is, statistically speaking, like the suicide rates inside of all of this stuff are like kind of an evidence of something that isn't sitting right. And I can't figure out what to make of that in the sense that I want to give them space to be and do whatever they want to be, but a lot of this doesn't seem to be landing. They seem to not be getting to a place of happiness. I think frustrated and lost, and then well, what does that mean?
Yeah, we talk about that a lot at work, which is really weird. I mean, we have some really weird topics, subjects that we talk about at work. And I think that's one of the things that we've talked about, and I think it's because, he's spent, I'm trying to think how old he is. He's mid to late 30s. He's spent the past 30 years struggling with hiding what he is, and hiding how he feels. And I think that once he came out, he expected there to be, a big release, a big burden lifted off.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now he's second guessing because the burden now is even more, I think.
Oh.
At least he was accepted before.
Yeah.
So yes, he was different. He kept it hidden, but he was accepted. It was, he was. Now he's struggling with, have I made the right decision? Have I done the right thing? And not only is he struggling with those things, but now he's struggling with isolation from people that won't. Now all of a sudden there's people who would talk to him before that are like, I don't want anything to do with you. Don't come near me. Stay away from me.
Well, and he's got a dissolved marriage and a kid.
Right. So there's so much more with coming out.
Mm-hmm.
It's. I think that's part of it because honestly, I mean, sometimes I worry about him. I'm like, and he'll send me a message through like Skype through work, and just say, hey, he'll be like, what's up? And I'd say, no, what's going on? He said, just trying to figure out like. Today, just trying to figure out a way to carry on.
Yeah.
And like I put to him, I said, just your son. That's your reason to carry on, your son.
Yeah.
And he was talking about like carry on through work, like how he can continue to work there and not go insane.
Yeah.
But I think there's a lot of times that I talk to him and I'm just like, you need to talk. Call me. Send me a message, something. And he deals with his mom. His mom's like. He says, I fully expect to come home. She lives with him. He's like, I fully expect to come home one day and find her laying on the floor dead from killing herself. And, so it's just, everything piled on top of it. I don't think it's just because he's, gay or transgender or transitioning to a woman. I don't think that's why the suicide rate is so high. I think if if he were able to come out.
Yeah.
And say, hey, I am what I am, and I'm becoming whatever, man to woman, woman to man.
Yeah.
And everybody went, all right, cool. What would there be to commit suicide over? You know what I mean? It's, I think, the way society reacts, the way that people react to your coming out that throws that extra burden on, that throws that extra stuff on that you're like.
But it even sounds like from what you said, like, society's, acceptance of it aside, there's still a process that they go through of trying to feel confident whether or not they made the right decision.
Absolutely.
The way it settles on them,
Yeah.
there's still a process. So even if society was enthused about it, it sounds like there is still some
I'm sure there has
baseline
to be.
process
there has
there.
To be. I mean, there has to be this is what I am, this is the way I've been my entire life.
Yeah.
And now I'm making a decision to alter that.
Yeah.
I mean, I've made decisions on things that, after I do them, I'm like, was that the right decision? Was that the best decision that I could have made? So, I mean, I'm sure you're going to second guess those things, but I honestly think that it's more of the way society then reacts to you, and that might be the final straw or the catalyst that makes it all come together to an end. Or I don't know. It's just again, and that's what I said. Like I talked to him. I asked him today what his nipples look like. Because he came in, he had his nose pierced. And I'm like, oh, when did you get your nose pierced? And he said, yesterday, I got my nipples done too. And we've been having that conversation, like a bunch of us at work. When he wasn't there, we were like, because he's taken hormones to enhance his breasts and everything else. And I started thinking, I wonder what does to his nipples, because a guy's nipples and a girl's nipples are completely different.
Uh-huh.
I mean, they're. So I started thinking about it. So I'm like, all right,
You
Jim.
guys need to like really amp up the business output or the
Right.
product output.
Wait, what
I
happens?
asked him, I'm like, do they change? You know, and like I asked him too. I'm like, if I ever ask you something that's over the line, tell me.
Yeah.
And I think he appreciates the fact that I will ask him those questions, because most people just avoid any conversation with him at all. And I always tell him, the only reason I'm asking is so I'm not ignorant to what you're going through. You know, like, because it's something that I'll never experience.
Yeah.
You know, so
It's interesting being a funny person. There are times when serious questions can still come from a place of oddness.
Yeah.
And you don't want to come off as funny about what you're asking, but you can't control it because you're just a funny guy. So you're like, what do your nipples look like?
Yeah, I mean,
there's no way that doesn't like come off as silly, but you're like, I mean it. I'm really trying
well,
to
that's and
engage with you.
he told me, he's like, I have the smallest nipples that you can imagine, and he says, and now they're starting to look like nipples. I'm like,
Wow.
yeah, we can move on.
I mean, I guess the transformation is so complete that this probably isn't true, but you almost wonder if, like, whatever maybe his brain, you can't change the brain, and the brain must be wired like man, whatever man piece still exists there would look at his transformed self in the mirror and feel some kind of chemical attraction to that, because, like, that's gotta be kind of bizarre.
Yeah.
I
don't know though, because like he says though, he doesn't feel that he is they don't feel as if he's a man. So it's not like he's a man looking at a woman's body in the reflection, I don't think. It's a woman.
But he is bi, so he is attracted to the female body.
Yeah.
Which is a whole other level of discussion, when it's like, you're not even transitioning because you're full on, you just happen to go both ways and want to do that from that end of it.
Yeah, so I mean, I just think, so go do what you're going to do, and I don't have a problem with
So
it.
Seth and I were talking about this the other day, and I'm so sorry that they have decided to apparently bake a cake at 9 o'clock at night.
Popcorn for a second, I'm like, let's play What Is That Noise?
Hey, boys! Seth and I were having a conversation the other day, and he's trying to process all of the things that are thrown at him every day. And to your point earlier, I don't care at all. I will give everyone all the space that they need to do and be and say and think and feel whatever they want to say. I get frustrated when you can't keep up with what is PC or kosher at any given moment. So you have some people, like you were saying, being offended because you don't recognize that they're a woman so far as being attracted to them.
Yeah.
Where the next person in line might get offended because you reacted to them as a female when you're not supposed to assume their gender.
Yeah.
So it's just like, I don't understand what rules am I supposed to follow here. I want to make sure that I give you the space to be happy and I don't want to offend you, but you're making it hard on me.
And I wonder if it's fair for us to put that responsibility on them, where it's like, listen, for our entire lives, but arguably society for 200 years, we've been playing in a specific arena. Don't change the game and expect us to just see the past coming. Like, you need to walk us through what's going on.
I have no fear at all in saying
individually. You don't just get to like join a community and be like, all right, you get it now, right? It's like, no, I don't. You're the first person I've met that went over there. So walk me through it.
If I ever mistakenly,
and that's why I try to be so open with him and just be like, look, I'm going to ask you because I'm not a mind reader. So if I don't ask you and I tiptoe around it, then I'm going to be.
Well, then it makes him feel more isolated. I think it's awesome that you just give him that warmth and that
Completely
space to
awesome.
say, But I don't have any problem if someone, if I mistakenly or presumptuously assume someone's gender and they get offended, I'm never going to be shy about saying, I'm sorry, how could I read your mind? Because everybody's needs are different. All you need to do is tell me what your pronouns are. I'm right there with you. Like, I'm not going to let you freak out on me. It's not going to work that way. But Seth and I were having a conversation about gender and gender fluidity and the difference between gender and biologically assigned sex and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
And he is having a difficult time understanding how someone can be gender fluid and why they should be allowed to be, I guess. But I just feel like on any given day I might feel a little more female or a little less female than... So if you have like super female chicks here and like guys, and somewhere in the middle is where we all fall.
Yeah.
Because I certainly don't consider myself super feminine.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just, depending on the day, may feel a little bit or a little less feminine. So if I can do that within this piece of that pole, why can't anybody else have as much space on that pole as they want? I just don't understand what the difficulty is.
Yeah, and maybe like, that's what I enjoy the most about the fact that all this is happening is that a conversation is happening about the spectrum, about where we all sort of lie on that. And I think that's beneficial, but I don't know. I feel like this whole thing's just going to cave in on itself. And
offering that to him.
The only thing that like...
Did you
I don't
offer the guest?
Thank you.
Don't ever come in a room and don't offer
Go
the guest.
right in.
Would you like some more?
No, thank you.
I can make you some.
It's totally cool. Enjoy it.
Mom.
It's okay. I'm not shaming you. I'm just letting you know.
Exactly what you're doing.
No, I'm just
Shame.
letting you know.
Shame.
Yeah, no, I am really glad we are where we are with this and that there is a conversation. I just want everybody to try to play nice and play fair in the sandbox. Like, don't look to be offended. You know what I mean? Like, don't look to attack someone. If you want your space, you have to give us space too, as the recipient of your information to us, to give us space to interpret it.
I mean, maybe the hard part is that, like, there's still people alive from a generation that is just so far removed from where we are right now, and
they're completely unwilling to even acknowledge what's going on.
I mean, how could I
can't
there's
fault
just
them.
there's no software in them for allowance. Like,
and this, you know what? Honestly, racism is evil, but that same principle applies to racism. I have worked with seniors. There is no software in some of them that allows for an understanding of what you just said was so unacceptable and so racist. They're like, what? That's how it is. You know, like I've seen it firsthand. So it's difficult, and I'm really glad that we are coming to a head now and hopefully moving forward. But
fingers crossed.
Yeah.
It's
appalling, some things that people are just like, what?
I've even been thinking, because I hate to say unintentionally, because that's taking the heat off of me, but I think I definitely deserve blame, I suppose, for absorbing left-leaning entertainment and news and things like that. And so most of the things that I listen to tend to like rip on Trump and the current administration and all that. But I tend to try to lean back a bit and think, and yet we wouldn't be having the conversations that we're having right now if things hadn't got this crazy this fast. So on some level, maybe it's positive. Maybe we're actually doing. I mean, that's the whole point of the reason that we have these two different parties. Is we have these two different views that are the balancing act of our democracy. Like we elect a Democratic president and we move that way, and then we elect a Republican president and we move back the other way, and that teeter-totter is sort of what keeps our liberty together.
Yep,
and so right now, like, we spent 8 years going that way, and this way just feels familiar, but also a little like, ugh.
I think though too that I think that's part of the problem why it seems like nothing ever gets done.
Yeah.
Because it's, you know,
just when
whatever we do this way, well, okay, now we're going to change everything back this way. Now whenever we get this done this way, we're going to...
And I wonder if right now we're seeing that more clearly than ever, because Democrats have just put their feet in the sand and they're not budging, and Trump and anybody who may still actually be, supporting him has an agenda that they're just not budging on, and now we the people can see it.
Yes.
It is obvious that no one's budging. We're like, All right, that doesn't
there's
work. That's not
problem.
what this system was built for. So
Yeah. We were talking to somebody, one of my supervisors at work, and he was saying, we ought to just do away with the parties. Like, there shouldn't be the parties anymore. There shouldn't be Republican, Democrat.
just have people run for president and just say what their platform is.
Yeah,
Just be like,
this is-
here's what I'm for, and here's what I'm against. What do you think?
Why do I have to pledge allegiance to a side?
Right.
I agree with that because
Where
I
is
feel
the
that
cold air coming from? I'm sorry, I'm interrupting,
Yeah,
but
I feel
there
like
is like a
clearly
cold
from your heart.
breeze blowing through it.
I feel like a lot of people are biased towards towards a few candidates in like presidential elections because they see somebody that if they didn't have that title as Republican or Democrat, they would otherwise like, but because they might be Democrat, if this person doesn't like Democrats, they're not.
I mean, I feel like that. I mean, Trump spent his whole life being a Democrat,
Yeah.
and then last
making
minute
fun of
he's like,
Republicans.
"Yeah, let's do it this way," and ended up winning favor in that transition and ultimately the presidency. So yeah, it's
And you can't, how often can you cross party lines without being, just ridiculed for it?
yeah. So, I don't know if and this is just massive subject change, I guess, back to where we sort of came from. I'm not sure if either of you have enough of a perspective to answer this question, but I'm super curious about, like, being a member of the church in Pittsburgh. Because I grew up in Arizona, which is, like, a very populated place, and so it sort of functions in a Utah way. It's not quite like the bubble, it has its own thing, but still pretty, I guess, orthodox. Like, it's still practiced very aggressively where I come from. Whereas, just as a missionary out here, it seemed like everybody kind of just had their own little way of doing it.
Yeah.
And you just came together weekly and worshipped and made it work, and off you go. Like, do you guys, have you seen, do you acknowledge, do you understand, like, what it's been like to be members in Pittsburgh, and, like, do you have a perspective on that?
Well, one thing that I will say is that Diane Bushman, that I mentioned earlier about Chris and his femininity, also, she was great for quips and quotes, but she said she vastly preferred, she was raised in a family where her parents had converted. So she was raised in a Mormon family, but they hadn't always been Mormon. So, and it was on the East Coast, I think New York City, if I'm not mistaken. And she said, here on the East Coast, because she'd spent plenty of time in Utah, excuse me, to be a Mormon, to be an active Mormon, as we were and as they were, you're like a pillar of the community. Where out west, you're just another Mormon.
Just a statistic,
just
one of
another
them.
Mormon.
Yeah.
So I recognize that, but I have found that, and when you were talking about your the two people that you had baptized in your mission, I can see firsthand how much harder it is to maintain membership and a belief when you haven't always been, and when you haven't been immersed in it your whole life, and I won't use the word brainwashed, but when it's just not been a part of like your makeup from the minute you were born, it's just kind of a story that you choose to go along with.
Yeah.
And when the story starts to fall apart, it's easy for it to fall apart. It's like, okay, well, that was just silly. And
Yeah.
I didn't do that for the first 22 years of my life, so I did it for 10, and now I'm done.
Yeah.
So I can't imagine. My hairdresser is actually someone who had been born in California, raised in a very Mormon family. Her husband as well, Utah Mormon family. Actually, her Todd's cousin is Napoleon Dynamite. What's his name?
John Eder?
Thank you. I wanted to say John Cena. That's not him.
Vastly different human.
Yeah. So anyways, that's Todd's cousin. So they're very Mormon families that they came from, and they have left the church. And she has said that it has been dang near impossible because of this the stress put on you by your, from the family that they're not going to let you leave the church. They're not going to let you leave without a fight.
Yeah.
Or we didn't have that. Our family's like, okay, finally, you're done with that one. So it was like they never tried to chase us away from it, but it was like we knew you wouldn't stick around that one too long. That thing that was too crazy. So. His mom believes it's a cult.
Yeah,
my parents were just like, okay. That's
my mom used
thing.
to say, "Boy, I just hope that you get away before it's too late. I just hope you realize."
Well, didn't you say one time what is too late?
What's too late for
before
what?
they start passing around the
I don't understand,
Kool-Aid.
what too late for what? I don't understand what it's too late for what? What is too late?
Yeah.
And she never got an answer for that.
Yeah. So it wasn't with any great, feelings of contempt or anything that we left. It was just an easy leaving, and it's so funny because his mother too would say, "They're not gonna let you leave. They'll never let you leave."
I have to imagine that are you still on the record?
Yeah.
So that you still get knocks on the door from time to time.
The bishop has shown up here twice. The bishop of the Pleasant Hills, but it's not anything pushy at all.
Yeah, and here's the thing.
We fed the missionaries up until we moved.
Yeah, so it wasn't like we had left and we're like, don't ever contact us again.
Right.
We don't,
We just finally stopped going.
Yeah, the missionaries would stop over, and there was a little while that it was like, okay, let's break ties here. Let's not.
But we didn't do anything to do it. They just stopped coming. Probably because there was a change of missionaries.
Yeah.
But once
you've been baptized, unless it's just for dinners and stuff, it's like, you've already been taught. That's not what we're here for. We need to go teach other people.
They'd still have, they'd still come over.
Yeah, but it's funny because I'm sure there's a review of the books occasionally, like any corporation.
Yep,
They're
like,
oh yes, the Derricks haven't been visited in a while. So then you see the missionaries for 6 weeks or so. And
is that somewhat obnoxious? Not in the sense that you
so
don't.
trans.
It's.
I have a respect for the church, but I also laugh a lot about the church. The church is a corporation. It is such a corporation. Down to that, and the way the missionaries are. I'm a sales rep. I'm a sales rep for a huge corporation. I see how it works there, and it was definitely how the church is run. So there's a bit of eye rolling. Oh God, they went through the books again. But it's fine.
Out of curiosity, then, I loved that point because I agree with it in large measure, and yet the part of me that wants to believe that Jesus is in charge of all of this, that he speaks to these prophets, and that this is his living church in the sense that he's the one that's running it. I wonder if you might possess a perspective of what would you expect him to do differently?
Yeah.
If there was a church that Jesus was running, would it look different than this? Would it just be a bunch of nomadic, service-oriented people that just no purse, no script, just go out and do his good work? Or would there be some structure?
I think the structure is certainly reasonable. I think I just giggle because it's a bunch of old white men in America that run the church. That's a corporation. It's so cliche.
Good old boys club.
Honest to goodness, that's exactly how I perceive it. But to answer your question, I don't know.
I think it would be much more accepting.
Yeah.
There wouldn't be. There's definitely
much less judgy.
There's definitely a class in the church. There's definitely the
hierarchy of classes.
And it's
which weirdly I think is a positive thing for this whole church meeting change, where they've reduced it to 2 hours, because essentially what they've done is they've taken the third hour and there's just home curriculum now.
Yeah.
So now you just take it into your home and you have the third hour at home with your family and you talk about it and stuff. So in a way, it's sort of taking the power away from the structure and the hierarchy and the bishops and the whatever, and it's just turning this whole thing that's been a family church since the proclamation into a functioning family church. Now you're really gonna plug in and do it that way. So
and when you mentioned the family proclamation, I think that the Mormons really hold way too strongly to the idea of the traditional nuclear family.
Yeah.
it's really excluding a lot of people that have wonderful families that just don't quite fit that structure. And I know that, like, if you would talk to a bishop or a stake president, they would be like, no, we're accepting of every family. But as the family is represented by the church, it is the nuclear.
It's like if you look at the family proclamation, on a technical level, there's one sentence in there that says individual circumstances might require adaptation, something like that. It's just like a really short sentence, but it's basically saying all this stuff can be done in another way if you need it. Like if that's what it means.
Especially if the vast numbers of families in America now look much more like that one little line than all the rest of the population. So I think it's just still it's stuck in the 50s. The church is stuck in the 50s, and it really needs to like make a big leap if it's to like really, I don't know, make people feel included and succeed.
Well, and that's I think it's because of all of the good old boys. It's all like 70 and 80-year-old men that are
running the church,
and it's just they're still of that mindset. I think it would be more accepting. I don't know that. Going back to
even silly things like women are expected to wear a dress or a skirt. Like, is
like
that still
church?
a thing? Is that still a thing?
Frankly, outside of social suggestions, I've never seen anything in black and white anywhere of a dress
where
code.
does that come
Like
from?
show up, like
it's
there are
2019.
places in other countries where you go in a toga or something, like just because that's culturally whatever. So I'm not sure where that happened.
But it was even things like, telling people, like I do remember this at one of the state conferences, being instructed to not wear flip-flops to church. I get your point, but no. I'm sorry. You should welcome whoever wants to show up and whatever.
It's like the idea of trying to heighten the reverence, the whatever of the meeting makes sense. However, is that what you're going to do? Like, that's what you're going to point at is my footwear? How do you get
where my heart is.
Exactly. How do you get access to my heart through my footwear? But maybe that's the challenge of it all. Like, how... And maybe that's the weird hit and miss of just running this church, directing it. Where it's like, you want to make a move, you want to make some new agenda, something... And there's going to be some people that doesn't work for. Maybe that just flat out offends them, and you're like, oh, okay. Well, now that we maybe couldn't have known that without rolling it out, but now that it's rolled out, and now that it's the way we do things, and it pissed that person off, now we got to spend our time trying to figure out how to like adjust the thing we just rolled out to make room for them, and like you just won't win everybody with everything you do. So you gotta.
There is the element also of I'm not making up these rules because I'm consulting a bunch of bourgeoisie. It's God that's directing us to give this direction, and you're not going to like it because that's what it's about, is being human and accepting that these directions are coming from. So there was a part of me that was like, well, I think your rules are stupid and I'm not going to follow them, so. And there's a lot of immaturity in the way that I voiced that. But I mean, on some level it was, I think I see more irony and hypocrisy in the way you do those things. And if I am to believe in a God or some power, I'm going to choose, because I've never met the guy and neither have you, to believe in a God that would be more benevolent, more accepting, less picky, less rule-oriented.
Would God care if I came to church in flip-flops?
Probably not.
Right. I mean, that's kind of where...
I get your point as trying to run an organization and increase reverence. I get that. But I'm not going to choose to believe in that kind of God.
In that, I have some authority issues that seem to really resonate with what you're saying right now. Does that stem, you think, in yourself from somewhere else in your life, or is that...
Oh, I've always had a problem with authority.
Yeah?
Yeah. No, oh my gosh. No, I was always... My mom said to me one time, I was like, I think it was like 15, and I was retelling some story that had happened in school, and I'd given some teacher some lip, and she's like, can you just not make waves for one day?
I feel like 80% of the reason that I'm active in church right now is my own acknowledgement of authority issues, and me just being like, if there's one thing I can give to you, based on where I'm at right now in my life, if there's one thing that I can use as a sign, an expression of worship that I'm trying to want to be here, it's that I'm going to sit in this freaking chair, and I'm going to be in this meeting, I'll try to pay attention. If they're being boring, if they're being self-righteous, I'll get into my phone. Like, I'll check out if somebody's just being stupid, but I'll try. I'll sit there and most of the time it's hard and not fulfilling and not edifying. And every now and again, like just something special will happen. I'll be like, okay, cool, that was worth it.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering how long it'll last before I'm just like, okay, I can't do that anymore, so I'm just gonna have to give you something else. And
he and I have talked a lot in the past couple years about like membership to like groups or like even cliques in high school. Or I never had a desire to like belong to a group, to whatever. It's so ironic. I loved our membership with the church in that it created like a family for us, and it was friends and family.
Oh, yeah.
But I would love on some level to return to church and appreciate some of the things that like come down. You're like, oh, okay, well, fine, I'll take that one. But there's a piece of me that would be like, I would want to say out loud to everybody, look, I'm not joining.
just so you all understand.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I have no desire to be Mormon, but I like what you have to say sometimes. So I'm here, but don't think I'm signing up for any. And that's so immature.
Why do we need that?
I don't know.
I feel like I need that too. I need people to understand things that really don't matter outside of my own comfort or whatever.
Anytime that I've ever found myself kind of even not really realizing I'm sinking into a particular like social group or whatever, or like a mother's group, I would attend for the benefits of the situation that it creates for you, but I never liked I'm a part of this group. There's so many people that they just want to be a part, like, I just want to be a part of the group, and I was always like, as soon as I found myself like sinking into that and going, oh no, I found myself in a group, I would do something to sabotage that, to like show everyone, oh no, I'm here, but I'm not part of your group. Make no. So I think I kind of, did that with the church too. So yeah, I did that with the church because when I decided that we were leaving. Well, I shouldn't say when I decided. It was like when we recognized that we were on our way out. I got my nose pierced, and I was primary.
I remember. I forgot all about that.
I was a primary teacher then, so it was kind of like a.
See that? See that? Huh? It's looking at you, all of you.
This new bling.
Yeah.
Wow.
So human, are we?
Well, yeah, thank you guys for making the time to do this wacky thing.
Entertaining.
I love this family, which is weird because I really don't know you guys all that well. I mean, I was only in your home a few times as a missionary and mostly just saw you at church and stuff, but just from a distance, I loved what I saw and still do. Like, this is a really great, I don't know, system that is in place here. On a personal note, and I'm just gonna try not to be weird about this, but it is what it is.
There's no weird in this house.
I enjoyed you both for who you are and for the fact that you actually look a lot like the girl that I dated just before my mission.
That's funny.
So, like, the first time that we met, I just took delight in the fact that I was just like, oh man,
That's
it's like,
funny.
and the irony being that your hair now is actually just like
Hers?
the girl that I moved back to Arizona for.
No! That's
It's like,
so funny.
oh, good times. But that really just goes to show that
Chris's hair has to look like some girl you dated at some point.
Especially Keegan.
Keegan.
All raining.
I mean, I don't want to say anything, but I've just been sitting over here,
Just
just
sitting with it.
pitter patter all night over
Well,
that.
I will accept you.
But I love you guys, and I don't know, anything you want to say to the world about life or love or parenting or the grace of God or how great those sandwiches tasted tonight? 'Cause they were.
I think if I were gonna say anything, like I work, like just, it's not like we were talking earlier. It's not easy. None of it's easy. Nothing.
We had a really great conversation with the kids in the car. All the boys were with us, and we were talking about our marriage. And I don't remember how the conversation started, but we were both being very honest and open with them about the fact that, like, your marriage is gonna suck a lot. It's gonna, like, really, you're gonna want out of it for moments, and then you just don't because you're in it. And this is, you know, you're in it to I'm gonna make it all work out in the end. And the longer you go sticking it out, I think it's just a deeper and deeper, you know, I don't know. I
just think, like, I work with guys that are just miserable. They're just miserable. And it's like, it's not, you know, and it's, I think they've just accepted to be miserable. You know? And it's,
there will be moments of misery, but it's up to you to work through it, to find the joy again.
Like, it's not easy. Yeah, it's not easy. Like, it's not easy being married to me. You know, it's not easy being married to her. It's just, but I love her, and to me, there's nothing more important than that. So the misery that rears its head every now and then is like, okay, am I here to be miserable, or am I here to love her? Well, okay, so I need to figure out how to get over the misery. I shouldn't say misery.
No,
because
it's moments of misery because you just think, is this what I signed up for?
Right.
Like when I was a teenager, is this what I imagined?
Right, but it's not. I mean, I don't want to say misery like it's, you know, there's a lot of miserable times.
No,
but
there are moments.
It's tough. It's, you know, and just trying to you know, you mentioned fair earlier. You know, so you mentioned something about fair, and when Seth was sitting here, it was like, you know, because things aren't fair. Things aren't, you know, they're not meant to be. It's not meant to be easy. It's not meant to be fair. It's meant to be worked for, and to be. If it was just easy, if we didn't have hard times, then what are the good times? I mean, it's
the whole
just
yin yang thing.
Yeah, and it's, you know, the whole fair thing. Nothing has to be fair. It has to be earned. It has to be worked for. It has to be.
Which is probably my favorite moment of the temple endowment, and honestly, it's one of the only parts of the temple that I talk about constantly, and I'm just waiting for somebody to smack me about it and get all, you know, righteously opposed to it. But just that, you know, when Eve gives Adam the fruit and he eats it, sort of obligatorily, because he told her that he didn't want to, and then she gave him a reason why that wasn't going to be good enough, and so he's like, well, okay, let's do this, and so he does it, and he's maybe not completely happy about that. She says, it is better for us to pass through sorrow, that we may know the good from the evil. And I feel like I kind of carry that through my life in times where, when I'm happy, I kind of have to take a second and recognize it. It's like, you realize that you're only actually even recognizing or feeling or enjoying this happiness because you were able to see the other side of it. Like, you saw the other side of the pendulum swing, so now that's why you get to taste this sweetness, because you went the other way. And vice versa. Right. That in moments where I'm miserable, it's like, part of the only reason that you even know you're miserable right now is because you've seen happiness, and so you know what misery is. But if you're brave enough to feel this, don't run from it. Just sit in it and feel it. The pendulum analogy just really grabs me, because it's like, as far as the pendulum, as you allow the pendulum to swing this way, it will reciprocally swing the other way, and you'll get to have greater joys. It's like when Alma talked about, as exquisite was his pain, so exquisite was his joy. Like, there's something about that process, and I feel like the reason that I use that analogy is I've noticed people in life, some people in life can just stay in the same place for years and years and years and years, and they just don't react to anything any differently. They don't speak really any differently. Their interests don't shift very much. They just kind of stay in the same place, and I've started to wonder if it's because, you know, the pendulum swung one way and they were having a really hard time with that, and it swung back the other way and they started to feel a little better, and they just grabbed the wall and they're like, I don't want to go back the other way, I just want to stay here. And their reward for that is, okay, well, that's what you get then, because anything higher than that means you're gonna have to taste the equivalent of sorrow and misery and pain to even be able to like recognize the other side. And it's one of the things that just kind of keeps me breathing when I think about like how hard it's been. It's like, well, arguably, doesn't that mean it's gonna get pretty bitchin' that way? I'm like, I guess. In theory, I'm gonna cross my fingers for the next 6 months and see if God will show me that. And if He doesn't, then okay, I'll just keep Him crossed. Like it's that I haven't figured out how to be like patient with His timing, quote unquote, and what He's trying to do for me or blah blah blah.
Well, and I think too, like with the same idea, it's just a matter of keeping yourself open to the universe and what it will offer you, and not being afraid to latch on to something that's taking you the other way. You know, or with more joy if you see it coming, even if it's scary.
Which is why, although you know, I did have a powerful experience coming back into the church, and I think about it a lot. My experience of leaving the church and coming back to it has softened my perspective of people that leave, where it's just like, all of you people in the church that want to get bummed out about that, or want to like, you know, gather together this big missionary effort to try to reclaim the lost sheep or whatever, the one thing that you're missing is that there are experiences that await them in their leaving that, because of God's plan, there's this book that they turned into a movie recently. It's called The Shack.
Oh yeah, I love The Shack.
Out of control.
I didn't see the movie. I thought it was good.
The movie's like frame for frame the book. Like they did a great job.
It's one of those books that you wonder as you're reading it. I don't know if they could ever do.
It's weird that they cast the guy that they did. Like you just think Terminator. What's going on there? But he actually played it really well. It's not Arnold Schwarzenegger. The other guy. It's the guy from South Turner. So it doesn't matter.
Sean Connery.
No.
Sarah Connor, Sean Connery.
He is in.
Yeah.
I know. In the original Terminator 2, he's the one that falls out of the sky and puts on the black Reeboks in the store.
Not in The Shack.
No.
No, he was the one from Terminator Salvation. It doesn't matter. It doesn't.
I thought you meant he put on Reeboks in The Shack.
Way off track. No.
So anyway, it's a good movie. But the one part, I guess, that like connects me to my perspective on people that leave is there's this moment when Mackenzie is sort of coming back to the shack after he already went off and he hung out with Jesus for a while and they like ran across the lake and there's all this stuff going on. He comes back to the shack and the old black woman, who is essentially supposed to be the Heavenly Father character, sitting on the porch just like sunbathing, and there's kind of a funny moment where he's just like, aren't you supposed to be doing something? She's like, honey, you have no idea how busy I am right now. It's funny, but he starts kind of coming at her about like, why is there so much pain in the world? And why do you let that happen? And why don't you just, get up and do something about it? And she says, Mackenzie, what your problem is, it's that you don't think I'm good. And she goes on to basically explain that it's like, because I am as good as I am, there is nothing that can go so desperately, horribly wrong that I don't have the capacity to make it better and to help it grow into something great. So if you really believed, like if it was a foundational piece of your perspective of me, if you believed that I was good, there isn't anything that could worry you, because you know that I'm there and that I love every inch and piece of what's going on, and that my powers and my grace are working to help fix everything. And so, in an extension of that idea, I kind of just, when you see people wander off, it's kind of like, anymore, it's kind of like the only prayer that I'm even able to offer anymore happens in that moment where I'm just like, I know I don't even have to tell you to watch him because I know you already are, but maybe just take a little bit of my love and do what you can do to make something good happen for them, because they're going, it's almost like they're going right now into their Gethsemane. And if you look at it that way, where would we be had Christ not gone into his Gethsemane? Like, that's we came here to suffer those pains. We came here to eat the fruit over and over and over again. That's why it's obsessed over in the temple, like, because that's what we're doing every single day. We're eating the fruit and we're discovering new experiences and we're learning good from evil and all that. So it's just, I don't know, kind of annoying to watch people get so tied up with how true the church is or how great it is that there's a prophet on the earth that they just can't let people have their journeys, let people have the experiences that they were born to have, and to just think that they know better than God. Like, these children, God sent them here at this time on the earth to do stuff, so just back off, focus on you. It's kind of, you said it a while ago, like, just about the individualness of the two of you and the independence of all that. It's almost like the more you get sucked into the community of the church, the less you really want anybody to have agency. You just want everybody to do what they're supposed to be doing so that it can feel good. But if the truth is you watch this person wander off and you're upset that they're doing so, if the underlying truth of that is you wish you could wander off too, then you're not living your best self. Like, you're not living... You were sent here. You were sent here to fail, and Jesus was sent here to succeed. That's a weird way of putting that, but like, there was no way that you were going to win this. Zero. You were sent here on a failure mission, and his job was to succeed, so that the whole thing, the plan, would succeed. He is the key piece to that. So when you get out of your own head and get out of your own way and be like, the point isn't don't make the mistake, the point is learn repentance. And that doesn't mean say I'm sorry and promise you'll never do it again. It means understand on a deeper core level why the thing that you did affected your relationship to God. In what way did it affect that relationship? And in what way can that course be corrected? What is your current understanding of God? And how can your understanding of God be improved to the point that it's not like, I just won't do that thing anymore, that you may not even want to, because there will be things placed into your heart that weren't there before that are godly things. And that probably sounds like self-righteous and holier than thou, but that's because I think our perspectives may be tied into like what Mormonism or other organizations have trained us to think about what those words mean, and I'm in the process of trying to break myself of that and try to uninstall some software so I can, I guess, get it right, which is stupid because we're not going to, but that's my goal, is to just get it right. Like once before I die, like when I lay in my deathbed and I'm like, I nailed it right there.
What looks right for you, though?
Yeah.
I mean, that's...
Which, back to companionship and partnership.
Yeah.
I mean, what's right for me doesn't include another human.
Yeah, but that human should give you the space.
Yeah.
And
it's a delicate balance of... Oh, I said to someone the other... Oh, when we were talking to Nate. No, when we were talking to AT. Like, I see him as an individual, and I have to love him as an individual, but I also... have to see us as a married couple. And then I also recognize our family as a unit. And each of those ways of looking at each of us takes different perspective and different patterns of behavior. And it's really delicate balance around all
and it
the
only
time.
took us almost 20 years to realize all that.
And how I perceive him as an individual at any given moment is different too. Like we talked about when we're, seeing each other romantically. That's not the same way I would look at him if I see someone who's having a rough week and in pain for some sort of issue in his life, and then you're seeing them as a weaker human with with a charitable heart is how you're looking at them. And then when I'm seeing him as my husband, it's more like, he's my knight in shining armor and all virile man, and so it's a moment by moment thing, and it really just requires giving him the space to just do his thing.
Well, I'm never gonna stop probably wanting what you two have and sort of holding, anybody that I might be in a relationship with up to the standard of the way that I view this from the outside as far as just a highly functional, healthy relationship.
No, lots of therapy.
Yeah.
Lots of
Well,
therapy. Lots of patience, lots of tongue biting. He has taught me to bite my tongue. Like, he is so good at just, if he doesn't have something nice to say, he doesn't say anything at all. Because, he should be saying so much to me and about me. So he's really taught me to just, like, it's just better just to walk away sometimes. Like,
Wow.
I always want to fix things, and that means so many times I think I should be just like, this is how it's gonna be.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's just not worth it at all. So he's been great about that.
And something you had said earlier about, you're good at like sitting back and watching on what type of person you need to be to make somebody else happy.
Mm-hmm.
And I would just suggest, just knowing myself,
Mm-hmm.
you can't change to make somebody else happy. Either they're happy or they're not. And you can't, because if you change to make somebody else happy, then you're not going to be happy. And that's going to reflect in that relationship in just the same way if they weren't happy with you because of who you are.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's not, your changing isn't going to make them happy. It's going to, it may make them happy, but it's going to make you unhappy.
Yeah.
And then you're just going to struggle with your unhappiness.
Yeah.
So if your changing to make them happy only makes you unhappy, there's no sense in that. It's got to be, they've got to be happy with who you are, and you've got to be happy with who you are.
Yeah.
And if it's not that, then it's not always going to be happiness. It's not always, I mean, there's plenty of times that I would like to, choke her out in her sleep, and she would like to do the same to me, I'm sure.
I've threatened to crimp his CPAP hose many times.
Yeah. But it's just,
Dark.
I have to sleep next to her.
Quietly laid over.
But it's just, if you're looking for that, if you feel like you have to change, if you have to change to make them happy, why aren't they happy with you in the first place? If you're changing for them, then you're not the person that maybe they want to be. You know what I'm saying? What I'm trying to say?
100%.
That's not you. You're something that you're a fake version of yourself. So that's not. Why would they want to be with somebody who's not true to themselves?
Yeah.
Because that's. I'm not gonna. I mean, I wouldn't change for anybody. Certain extent, certain things. I mean, if I became a drunk and she's like, "Hey, look, I don't really like the way that you're, a drunk," all right, then maybe I'd stop drinking. But as far as if you're into music, if you're into video, if you're into, that kind of stuff, and they're not, why change for that? Find somebody that's...
But they don't have to be into the... You can have a perfectly happy marriage while having very different interests,
right,
too.
yeah, absolutely.
Because I freaking hate football and he loves it. I just can't be in the same room with him.
Yeah. So it's, but as far as like changing, who you are.
Yeah, no, like your behavior patterns, the way you think about things.
Right.
It's tough because I think you would end up betraying yourself anyways, betraying your changes. So, like, you can only keep that facade up for so long.
Yeah.
Because 20 years from, whenever it begins, you'll be exhausted, or they'll start to, slip out when you're tired. Just your old quirks or whatever. And
I just want to hope that, like, maybe once a year or something, when you get into that, 20-year plus mark, that there's just a moment, at least a moment a year, where you just look at the other person and there's just something, there's some connection. Something that's just like, fuck, I'm happy it was you. You just really...
We have those all the time.
Yeah?
All the time. Yeah. It's just not fireworks. It's just walking down the street holding each other's hands, and I'm just like, man, am I really glad you're my husband. You just have that moment where you're like, yep, yeah, this is working out alright. This was the guy. This was the one.
And I think those struggles only bring you, because like we said, I mean, we went through, I don't want to say a rough patch, like a tough time.
Like nothing significant.
Right,
There
that's
wasn't
what I'm
an
saying.
event or anything,
Right,
but it's
but
just
it's
getting
just a
lost in the
struggle.
drudgery of life.
It just feels like, you know, you've grown so far apart, and it's like, is
Is it retrievable?
is it worth saving? Like, is it worth putting the effort in to bring us back together? And yeah, of course it is. I mean, there's no reason not to be, but and then once you come back together, it's like, well, holy shit, I really am, you know, I appreciate you. And it's not, I don't appreciate you for what you do I appreciate you for who you are and what you are and what we have together, and, you know, and it's just, it just works, and you make it just makes you appreciate it that much more. And there's not, like she said, it's not that, sure, there's those fireworks, but it's not like, oh my gosh, you know, this big display of, you know, waterfall fireworks, and it's just that.
It just feels
That
like a warm
appreciation,
reassurance.
Yeah.
So don't look. I don't know.
Just do you. You are
Yeah.
so awesome. Just do you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Tell some girl she's pretty like your goat.
I think that's something I'm afraid of, is continuing to court women like I have in the past and not learning how to do it. Because just the way I do it is to just become the dude that I can tell that she wants, so that her choice is easy, because I don't think I'm awesome. I have like
so awesome.
the worst opinion of me.
No, I've been
and
so
so I'm
excited.
always constantly trying to become something that other people will tell me is great. So in that moment I can feel great, but I'm still going to go home and just feel like a piece of garbage.
So that, I mean, it doesn't matter. You know, it's, I mean, that, like she said, you're not being true to yourself by saying, well, I'm going to impress this person with doing things that I wouldn't normally do or changing how I do them, because you're like, oh, shit, why did I do that? You know, now you have to keep up that facade of, you know, I can do whatever, you know, and it's not worth it. It's and believe me, I have a horrible self-opinion. Like, I'm pretty bad, and if I felt like I had to keep some shit show up for her, forget it. Like, there's no way. And I say to her all the time, you know, somebody's gonna find out what a fraud I am someday, you know, and it's gonna all come crashing.
And everything.
Yeah, it's all gonna come crashing down on me, and she's and like. When I think that, she says, well, how do you think that speaks to me? Like, you don't think that I'd be able to tell that you're a fraud? You know?
By now.
By now, you know. So it's just like, all right, maybe I'm not a complete moron. It's tough. But just
have fun.
Yeah.
We just had, I think that's really what we built our relationship on.
Yeah.
Just goofy amounts of fun. And you talked about the girlfriend that you had that you like ripped on each other. That's the foundation of our marriage.
Yeah.
Just, we were awful to each other. We thought, actually, we just went through our filing cabinet the other day, and we have old little pieces of memorabilia, and one of them is this torn up piece of paper that was, oh my God, were we dating like a week by then? Yeah. And I was sitting on his knee at his mom's office, and he tore off some piece of paper and drew his representation of me at the time, which was this hideous, snaggle-toothed, ribs exposed, skinny, anorexic woman with haggard hair and flies flying around her. And then I drew my representation of him, and we taped them together. We still have that 20 years. And his mom was appalled. She's like, oh my God, you two are awful to each other.
But I think it definitely comes from a place of love and appreciation.
Oh, yeah.
And
But
just
safety, like we are awful to each other because but I feel completely safe with him, and I hope he feels with me as well. We're just awful to each other because we know we're not serious.
Well, here's hoping. Forget here's hoping. No, just I'm gonna go do my own thing.
You're gonna do your thing. It'll be awesome.
For women, comes along.
Yeah.
cross that bridge when it gets.
Yeah.
It's just it becomes a stress
Just
piece
find
when you
different.
get in your late 30s, where you're just like,
Yeah.
oh man.
Well, that's what I said earlier. Like to date now, like I wouldn't know how to do it. Like it's
yeah,
just
I've told him if
No,
something
that's
never
good.
happened to us, I'm single for
Yeah.
the rest of my life. There's
It
no
just-
way I'm re-entering the whole dating scene thing. It's too exhausting to think about.
It's just, it is. It's scary because a lot of times
You
like,
don't know what you're getting into.
well, I talk to guys that are on like that Plenty of Fish and the
Bumble.
LinkedIn, whatever the dating sites are, and they're like, I went and met this girl, and it was not the same person that they posted,
Yeah.
the pictures of, and
I used to say, like, if I were dating, I would, like, hang out at the library. Nobody hangs out at the library anymore. Like, there's Google. People don't go to the library. There's, like, Audible and Google. Who needs a library?
Yeah.
So, like,
but it's scary. Like you don't know.
where do you hang out
Yeah.
to find a mate?
Yeah,
You know, it's the worst.
yeah. It's like people say, "Oh, you just go to the bar." I mean, no, I'm not
No
gonna
way.
pick somebody up at the bar. I mean, just it's
You
tough.
need to get a job at BP that has a Blimpie sunshine.
That's exactly what I need to do.
Let's go for a
New life plan.
blue-haired person working.
I am looking for that. I'm definitely looking for blue hair. It's gotta be there's gotta be something artsy about her. Because she's gotta be able to put up with all this nonsense.
That's awesome.
Or not, tolerate it. I mean and I think that's go do your own thing, and that she's constantly like getting on me to find a hobby and to find just go do your own thing.
Mm.
I'm like, I don't want to do that. I just want to sit here and veg out. That's my thing.
Which is fine, yeah.
Yeah,
I think it's
that's
just,
fine.
but I've always been like, I don't want to say nervous, but just there's pressure on me because he'll say, I just want to be with you. And I'm like, that is way too much pressure. Like, I know I need my space.
Yeah.
So it makes me feel guilty when he's like, I just want to be with you. I'm like, ah!
Oh.
So if that's really what you want, you just want to sit and veg out, hey, that's your thing.
But
Weirdly, I think people are going to take comfort from hearing that. I feel like there's probably a lot of women out there that need space, don't know how to ask for it, and are just imposed upon constantly by like a codependent spouse or something like that, and they need to hear somebody be like, no, I need space.
Yeah.
That's why you need to
Well,
go
and
do your
that's-
own thing.
and that's what I said. I mean, it's almost 20 years of
Learning.
that. I mean, it's not.
It's a cute moment that we had recently. I'm viciously independent, and my mom says I always have been from birth. And I have thought it's cute, but a little suffocating how much he cares for me, like actively, like a mother hen.
Oh.
So one day I was following him home from, that might have been actually from the therapist visit, maybe. I don't know.
yeah,
But
just get your car.
so we're driving separately, and
Uh-huh.
he went, I swear he went up the ramp to get on 51, and I went up the ramp to get on 51, and I'm halfway up the ramp, like I had barely turned off of 51, and he goes, did you pull over? Where are you?
I call her.
Oh, yeah, calls me. Did you pull over? Where are you? I'm like, I'm driving on the ramp to get on. I thought I was following you. No, I went straight on Lebanon Church Road. I was like, I'm okay. Somehow I will make it home from here. So my first thought is, it's sweet. My second thought is, and he means well. He's not like
I love that you have both. You
Yeah.
can acknowledge the sweetness,
Yeah.
but you're just annoying.
I kind of answered like, hello. But he was genuinely, he's like, oh, what if she wrote?
See, and I'm surprised that the fun between the two of you, that you don't use an opportunity like that to try to freak him out. Like,
Well, but there's some things I know I have to be to like, pretend that I wrecked or something.
Like,
He would do
That's
that to
fine,
me.
that's fine.
He has no shame. That like he has nearly given me a heart attack many times.
I used to drive to Ohio to work, so it was like an hour and a half drive one way.
yeah.
And it was, winter
Awful
time,
winter
awful
weather like this.
weather.
I'm home, stay-at-home mom with tiny kids.
Yeah,
Mm.
and I had left to go to work, and snowing, inches of snow on the ground. And,
In a stupid little geoprism.
yeah, I don't think it was a good person. I think it was. I don't remember what it was. Yeah, just some
Because
little
it
piece
was
of
not
shit
too
car.
long before the
Yeah,
did the thing
yeah,
too.
just some little piece of shit car, but I had gotten to work safely, and I called to tell her that I got to work safely, but at some point before she answered the phone, that changed to I was going to muffle my hand over the phone and tell her I was in a horrible car accident and I was in a ditch on the side of the road. Because that is the funny thing to do.
So I screamed and melted down the wall, and I'm crying inconsolably. And he goes, I'm kidding, I'm kidding, I'm kidding.
Yeah,
What is wrong with you? Hung up on him. So I don't do that kind of stuff. And I didn't even point it out right away because I'm trying to be sensitive to, like, he wants to nurture me. And I bit my tongue.
Witnessed you biting your tongue.
I bit my tongue.
Wow.
I did. I waited until the next therapist visit. Just as a topic of, hey, we're working through these things.
You guys are the best. Everyone out there that's in a relationship, go to therapy. Even if you're happy.
Go to therapy.
Just go to therapy. It's good for you. Well, thanks for being a part of this crazy project.
Thank you.
I'll let you guys know when, it's available.
Yeah. It's been an honor. I'm so glad you visited. I've been really looking forward to this.
Me too.